Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on episode 7, season 4 of The Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're here live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, another great week in the league. Warriors won a close one, and the Broncos are now the only undefeated team in the NRL. How was your weekend, and what did you think of round 4?
Hey, evening, Brad. My weekend was good, as always. Hope yours was. We were just talking before coming on about living in the present and milking every little last drop of this top 4 present we're living in. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, already getting ready for those grand final tickets, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
While we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show via our podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, all those places at your convenience. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you would need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of round 4 and an update on our tips. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys, as well as some questions we've got for each other. We'll then preview round 5 and make our picks before ending the night with a bit of Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we'll do our best to answer them as we always do. We may as well jump straight into the top stories of the week, Richie.
Yeah, sounds good to me, mate.
All right, so this is one that Paul might jump in on, knowing what he's like. But Joseph Suaalii has advised the Roosters that he'll leave them at the end of 2024 and has signed a deal with Rugby Australia and the Waratahs until the end of 2027, which is World Cup year. Rumoured to be around 1.6 mil a year. What's your take on the news of Suaalii jumping ship? I'm kind of not surprised. As I said before we jumped on the show, he had a clause in his contract to have the ability to negotiate with rugby. And there's been a lot of reactions on various opinions on it, but what's your take?
Well, if I put myself in his shoes and I'm a young 19-year-old man and somebody's willing to throw 1.6 million a year at me, it's very hard to walk away from. So completely understand him taking that deal. And like a lot of people think, he's still very young. So end of 2027, when his contract's up, plenty of time to come back if that's what he desires. He may not. Playing union has its perks as well as making a lot of money. You'll get to travel around a lot more. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we've talked about that on previous shows. I know Peter V'landys came out again saying, congratulations on him. He's going to have less work to do and he'll get bored and come back. But it's what you said, like they get to travel the world, make a bit of coin. There's a lot of pluses to it. As much as I love rugby league, I can see the reason to jump ship to the lesser code. But, congratulations on it.
I might edit you out this whole show.
No, I like union, but as I've said on the show, I fall in and out of union. So, yeah, it all depends on how the All Blacks go, really. But, I'll still get to see him lose, hopefully, against the All Blacks. So I'm all down for it. And like Simon has commented saying Rugby Australia is wasting its resources and need to put that into grassroots. Jacko replied to Simon saying likely they have a couple of rich benefactors helping them out. Yeah, there'll be people chipping in. And he was kind of their pet project before in the rugby league pinched him. He was developing for Union, and then the Rabbitohs and the Roosters jumped in and threw a stack of money on a kid who had never played. Well done for him. What's your take, Paul, as the Union tragic?
I just think everyone's losing all their shit over this. I mean, it's not like we haven't had players like Vunivalu a couple of years ago doing the same sort of thing, and the number of league wingers that have come across to Australian rugby is just there's loads of them. So I just don't get why people are losing their shit. It's just the next one. So what? Good luck to him, obviously, and let's see how he goes in union. He's got a background in it, so he's more likely to succeed. But I just don't understand why all just losing their shit, really.
Yeah, it's just the I don't know, understand the mentality. We've said it. I've said it a lot on here that, a big star leaves NRL the next year, someone's completely taken their place and you forget that they're even there. Probably not that severe, but you know what I mean. And Mark Roberts said, Cheese told him that he's money grabbing in the Aussie rugby is stupid to do that. To be honest, if I was getting offered that much money, I'd go do whatever you want. So I don't mind at all. If they're willing, you can't help what people are willing to pay you. So if they're willing to throw that money up, may as well go for it.
Sure. I'm sure people like Cheese are just working for free.
Yeah. But anything else you want to add to the Suaalii thing before we go?
No, we can move on. It's done to death already, isn't it?
All right, we'll keep on the Union track for a little bit. All Black Geordie Barrett spent time with Melbourne Storm this week, going to training, and he was at their match against the Tigers. You may have seen him in the changing rooms with them when they were getting ready. I saw a video with him on the Storm's YouTube channel saying that it was part of a thing the All Blacks were doing to help their players develop more, going to see other organisations and how they work. The All Blacks themselves have done it. I know the coaching staff have actually gone and spent time with Bellamy, as well as going to the NFL in America and stuff like that. But it kind of goes with our last year, Richie, when we had the rumours about Geordie Barrett saying he wanted to play league. Do you think that means we've found a destination for him if that eventually happens?
That's I don't know, mate. I think he's still got a lot to give in rugby union. I don't know how seriously I take him wanting to, him talking up, wanting to go to league. I think he likes the game, but I don't know that I actually see him following through with that. And like you say, we've seen the All Blacks hook up with the Storm in the past to do different things and trade ideas. So it's probably just something along those lines. It would be interesting to see him have a crack, though.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's something that it could potentially happen. Probably not. I think he would go down the RTS route and potentially go to Japan. But yeah, it was good to see him in there. It was recognizing a rugby union face in the changing rooms. Was an interesting thing to see, to say the least. Yeah, Mark Roberts said, just like CNK and Tuapiki have taken RTS's spot, and now RTS is an afterthought. I know that's in jest, but yeah, RTSO. I think he plays for that useless Blues team, doesn't he? I don't know. I don't follow them. But and there's lots of comments in there. I'm saying like France, England, and Ireland all have league coaches or assistant coaches. Makes sense that knowledge and coaching can work both ways. Yeah. And did Dave Rennie do rugby league style defence, and will Scott Robertson employ it? That's more a question for Paul there. Who's the Scott Robertson guy?
Join us on a Monday night for those sort of questions.
Yeah.
And then Mark replied and responded to that anyway, saying the new All Blacks coach Race has been going to Melbourne to learn stuff from bellyache since 2017. Hence why the Crusaders have been so dominant. Yeah, there's interchangeable. You can learn skills, especially as a coach. You can learn skills from all sorts of different sports. So you just got to be a sponge and take knowledge from wherever you get it.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie Jones, obviously the Wallabies head coach, has his own podcast now, and he talks about how he's been on. He has Zoom groups with various American American football. You got basketball. You got football coaches. They all share. Yeah, they all share information. It's all good good learning for them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Simon's saying Geordie Barrett's looking for leverage for contract negotiation. He's doing a TJ on us, Richie.
Yeah. Yes.
Potentially, that it's all part of the game too. But we'll move on. Otherwise, we're going to be a rugby union show.
TJ's All Blacks career an awful lot of good.
That's true. Next one was a bit of a surprising thing, Richie. The Eels are set to chase a new fullback in a surprising move. They're looking for an X-factor young fullback to either come off the bench or start at fullback. Doing that would move Clint Gutherson into likely the centres, they've said. Jaden Campbell from the Titans is a rumoured target. When I saw the description of what they were looking at, there's a young guy at the Warriors that I'm really worried about. them trying to steal. What's your take on them deciding to move Gutho and get another fullback? I think there's other positions they kind of need help with.
Exactly. I don't see Gutherson as a problem in the Eels lineup. I don't know about you, but I don't. I still think he performs really well for them. And yeah, when I look at their roster overall, I see bigger holes elsewhere. I mean, I think maybe elsewhere in the outside backs, you got Sivo and Will Penasini, but outside of that, they plug in holes with like Bailey Simonson, who's not really out and out superstar. But yeah, I don't know. It's a funny one, but left field, if you ask me.
Yeah, and Jacko also said that they'll move Gutho to centre if they get a top fullback. I don't think there's a lot of top fullbacks out there that are going to jump.
Yeah.
To be honest, they're looking at for the type of player they're looking at. They're going to have to look at a Campbell or Tuapiki, one of those young guys that isn't getting regular first grade at the moment. I don't see the Warriors wanting to let go of Tane, and I don't see the Titans really wanting to get rid of Campbell. So money talks, I guess, but it's going to be interesting. It kind of feels like the Eels management and coaching staff are just kind of a bit lost at what to do to fix problems with them, and are just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
I don't think Gutherson would be anywhere near as effective as a centre anyway. No. I mean, I've seen him play centre, but I think he operates a lot better as fullback. My personal opinion, at least. Yeah, and Rob said, "Great shirt, Brad," isn't it?
Yeah,
it's wonderful shirt.
I'd wear Paliacino all day. And yeah, Jacko's replied saying, "Yeah, there's no top fullbacks about." I just don't. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone that's off contract that you could get. So yeah, it makes no sense to me, but I'm sure we're going to hear more about it as we go on in the season. So I'm sure we'll update all of you on that when we know more. I'll segue away from that to a bit of NRLW. The NRL announced yesterday that NRLW players will now be able to sign for multi-year contracts starting from today. There was a first announcement for a signing. I did not get her name for the Knights. Wasn't my girl Millie, but it's good. We talked about it last week when we talked about Millie potentially going to the Roosters. With this whole women players only get to sign 1-year deals, you can't really secure and build a team. So with this now, they're going to be able to do that. What's your take on the ladies being able to sign multi-year deals now?
Yeah, it's another good step in the right direction for the NRLW, which has already been building nicely, started to build nicely. So we just need a Warriors team back in there now, and she's all goes.
Yeah, and that goes straight into my next bit. Before I go on, though, Mark Roberts commented about Haynes Perham's been a bigger loss for the Eels than they want to admit. Yeah, he's kind of the fullback they're trying to get, and they let him go. So yeah, it's great management there from the Eels. But going on with what you said about the Warriors need to finally get a women's team back in. The Warriors actually announced this week Rugby League Administrator Nadine Conlon has been appointed in a new role to create a development and pathways program for the club's NRLW. It's basically an NRLW academy manager. She obviously had quite a good league career before she went into the office side of things. But for me, it's good to see that they're going to put the same amount of attention into the women's side of the competition instead of just all throwing into the development for the men. What's your take on it, Richie? You think it's a good move?
Yeah, fantastic. I think overall the club, have been looking at the pathways and now looking at the extra grades we have playing this year, and this is just another step on from that. So it's great they're looking at investing in the talent that's coming through, and it's only good for the future of our club, really.
Yeah, and Mark Roberts also said it's great to see the women assigned to ladies start to build a team for 2025. That's, I think, the best aspect of it. It's 2 years away before the Warriors women's team will be there, but they're starting now as opposed to just waiting till next year to get things moving. So yeah, promising times. Hopefully, the Warriors women's team was always, quite competitive. So hopefully they go back when they hit the ground running. Fingers crossed for that. But next one was a bit of interesting news. I've had no confirmation, but there's rumors that we may see a Four Nations tournament at the end of this year, Richie, with Australia, New Zealand, Samoa, and Tonga all to compete. Be the first time we've had a Four Nations since 2016. And I know we've said on the show a lot that we want to see it come back. So hopefully we get a confirmation on it. But you excited about potentially having the Four Nations back this year?
I mean, yeah, you and I have always, been advocates for international footy and sort of beating that drum. It'd be great to see more international footy. So yeah, I'd be excited for it for sure. I kind of feel a bit sorry for some of the other Pacific nations, Fiji, even a rugby league mad nation like Papua New Guinea would be cool to involve them somehow. And yeah, I don't know how you do it, but all the same, I'd be very excited to see us get another crack at beating Australia and see Samoa and Tonga continue to develop.
Yeah, and as Christopher said, England's actually trying to tempt Tonga to tour at the end of the year.
That'd be great.
It's if they do that, Tonga won't be available for the Four Nations, and that's when you get your Papua New Guinea or the likes in. But in terms of no disrespect to Papua New Guinea and Fiji and all that, for the Southern Hemisphere, your top four sides are the teams that are in that Four Nations competition if it goes as scheduled there. But yeah, I just love watching that. It's better. Like I love my internationals, and getting a Four Nations, you get a bit more of a taste than just a one-off game. So yeah, hopefully we get some confirmation on that later on. We'll move on. The rest of the news I've got is basically just signings, because there was a stack of movement after our show last week, as is always the case. They wait till after we've gone live, Richie, and then they just start announcing everything. But Mitch Moses has extended his stay with the Eels. I haven't seen an official confirmation from the Eels, but everyone's saying it's happened, including the Eels. So I don't know what's going on there. But until the end of 2028, I think we talked about it last week that we kind of always expected that to be the case anyway. But what's your take on Mitch Moses? He kind of cemented his role, I guess you could say, in the game that we're going to talk about a bit later.
Yeah, I think it's just good to get that talk out of the way, and I think Mitch will be feeling the same himself. All the talk can stop now, and he's got it over the line, and yeah, like you say, he celebrated accordingly the other night.
It's a lot of money for a flat track bully, though, but
he's still banging on about that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But next bit of news, Manly have signed Aaron Woods effective immediately for the remainder of the season from the Dragons. And in return, the Dragons have signed Viliami Fafita and Alec Tuivaki from Manly. And there was a bit of interesting news during the week where Moses Sully said that Fafita didn't actually want to come to the Dragons. So it's great. It's great to see the Dragons keep getting kicked while they're down. But what's your take on Manly picking up Aaron Woods?
Why? I would ask why. He's kind of not been setting the world on fire the past few seasons, and I think they've just gone and traded a couple of young up-and-comers. I think we saw Viliami Fafita in the trials too, and he looks like he goes pretty hard. I'm not too sure. But
it's going to be another young talent that gets ruined by the Dragons organization.
Yeah, what's your take? You're the front row aficionado.
Aaron Woods is a huge step away from what he used to be, but I think he is basically in there. I don't know if we'll even get to see him play any games for Manly. I think it's basically they've got a lot of young forwards, two less now, obviously. But they've got a lot of young forwards that they probably want to get a bit of his experience on, let them sit under his learning tree for a bit. Potentially, that's all I can really see from it, but time will tell, I guess. But yeah, interesting times. And yeah, hopefully those young kids that go to the Dragons actually get to do well. No, Matty Matt said he didn't say Fafita didn't want to come. He was talking about himself. He talked about himself as well. He said Fafita didn't want to come. I was the same. But that quote was taken out of context because he did explain that he didn't really want to go to the Dragons when he started, but it was what he needed, and he thinks he's got better. Yeah. If you listen to the whole quote. So he didn't completely stick the knife into the Dragons like I would have, but it was a half, so I'll take it. More signing news, though. Isaiah Yao's re-signed with the Panthers until the end of 2027. Bit of a no-brainer. He's their captain, and he's still in great form, so why wouldn't he? Mark said, I love it. I'm modeling my hair off Aaron Woods. Yeah, it's... Yeah.
Aaron Woods is...
I got no comeback for that.
Aaron Woods is Brad off Wish.
Brad's just waiting to do this haircut.
One day. It's going to be all gone once I decide to shave it off for charity, whenever I decide to. But yeah, and Jacko mentioned Manly let Marty Tapau go, and then they've brought Woods in. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of the rooms when these decisions are made, to be honest. But they're not the only club. There's plenty of clubs that have done it, our club included, Richie.
I think Tapau needed to go anyway. The point when he was sharing videos on social media last year about not getting minutes, I mean, you got to think the relationship between club and player is pretty fractured there.
Yeah. Just happy that I didn't have social media when I was playing, Richie, because, I would have been complaining about lack of minutes all the time.
Yeah,
But with more releases and signings, the Titans have signed Ken Mamalo from the Tigers immediately and also announced that they've released Patrick Herbert on compassionate grounds. There's been no word as of yet on where Herbert's going to go. I know the moment you hear compassionate grounds and Kiwi, you're like, oh, he's coming back to New Zealand. That's not necessarily the case. He played for the Dragons once in a blue moon, so maybe his family's in Sydney. Not too sure. And Rob's just said Pat Herbert's going to Catalan. So, yeah, makes sense. You need to go on compassionate grounds, so you go to France, of course. What do you think about Kenny going to the Titans? It's another interesting move by the Tigers. But
it is. But if you look on current form, Kenny's probably winning in that deal.
Yeah.
The Titans, although they're not they haven't exactly been an elite club lately either, but they're still a step up from the Tigers.
Yeah, definitely. So, hope it goes well for moving to the Titans. Be good to see. And then the last bit I got really is Raider Jack Whiten has advised the club that he's going to go to market and is open to moving on from the club. Richie, what's your take on Whiten? And if available, would you pick him up as a Warriors fan, or would you see him go somewhere else?
I would see him going somewhere else because I don't think he'd come here. I don't know that we'd throw a coin his way anyway.
I was going to say, if he's going to market, he's looking for money, isn't he?
Yeah.
He is looking for money. I don't know. Surely the Dolphins must be cashed up enough to throw him an offer, or maybe he's the Eels' solution.
Maybe. And I saw a comment saying Cameron George said they're going to wait for the right signing to fill in the last two spots. Yeah, I've heard that too, which I think is a good move from the Warriors. Just going out and just signing anyone because they're available doesn't really fit with the mentality that this club's now taken on board. No. So it's good to see. And Jagger said some want the Wires to pick up Whiten. No. Yeah, to be honest, if you picked him up, you could put him in at centre, but I'm happy with the roster they got right now. Yeah, he's not a player that I go, oh, we need him immediately. There are players out there that do fit that mold, but Whiten's not one for me. And yeah, Simon said France is a good place for Patrick. You can retire at the age of 62. And yeah, Jack also mentioned Whiten's contracted to the Raiders next year anyway. Yeah, but he can negotiate with another club from November this year. So he could be already signed to another club and play another year for the Raiders, which means he won't play knowing what Ricky's like when players sign elsewhere. But that's all we really had. Anything else you want to talk about on the signings, Richie?
No, not really, mate.
All right, let's go. Injuries, casualty ward time. So we've got Manly centre Tolu Kola is off to have surgery on an MCL injury and will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. He's been playing all right for Manly, so a bit of a loss, especially with Morgan Harper still out. I think Harper is a couple of weeks away, unless he's been named this week. I can't remember. But the big one probably, and we've been talking about it, waiting for it to happen, but Sean O'Sullivan from the Dolphins suffered a full tendon rupture on his pec muscle and is going to be out for 3 to 4 months. So we were talking a lot about depth and how will the Dolphins react to it. We're going to see it now because they've also lost Tessie New for 4 weeks after he injured his MCL as well. What's your take on that? Do you think that's going to have a massive effect on the Dolphins?
Well, I think it will. Just Sean O'Sullivan being a halfback, and he was their halfback that they were running with, and he'd been doing a great job steering them around the field in the first few weeks. So I think that's definitely, anytime you lose one of your starting spine, it's going to hurt. But then, obviously Tessie knew as well. He's been playing well and scoring tries. So yeah, like we were saying, injuries in the NRL are inevitable. So this will be the acid test for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and Jeremy Marshall-King's back from suspension. So I assume Cody Nikarima was going to go in. I didn't even check the team list because I'm not a professional. I'm just going to go while we're here, Richie. I'm just going to it. Good news for them is they're only playing the Dragons this week. So
is Nikarima good to go? Because he went off during that game as well.
Oh, he just had a little boo-boo. Oh, yeah. So, no, they're going with Milford. I forgot about Milford.
Yeah.
They're going with Milford and Katoa in the halves. Yeah. And, yeah, Cody's named on the extended bench.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And, yeah, with Tessie New out, they've got Jack Bostock, who I've never heard of, on the wing. So, yeah, going to be time to see. And then, yeah, Murray Talangi from the Cowboys is out for 4 to 6 weeks after also injuring his MCL. It seems to be a theme. And then Tohu Harris, I saw some comments earlier on about Tohu, but he hurt his knee in the game at Mount Smart on the weekend. He has been named to play, and they're giving him up until the last minute. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to play. I think I would rest him myself. But what's your take on Tohu?
I would rest him if it's anything less than 100%. I think the way he started and being our captain, he's an important, he's an important player, a very important player to us. So we don't really want to risk doing any further damage. So we've shown we've got good depth this year, and then trusting our depth has worked out well for us so far. So if it's anything less than 100, I'd be giving him a week. Yeah,
definitely. And I saw Pitapi commented, this is our year up the Dolphins. Yeah, they're doing a lot better than I thought, Pitapi. So, yeah, we'll see what happens now, though, with a couple of injuries. As long as they stay away from my Warriors team, we'll be all right. But now that was all the injuries. We'll go to Naughty Boy Corner before we get into the round, Richie. Only 3 bans this week. Raider Jack Wyden, who we were just talking about, he's got 2 weeks for a grade 2 dangerous contact. Jeremiah Nanai is banned for 2 weeks for a grade 1 dangerous throw. And then Junior Bolo is also banned for 2 weeks for a grade 2 high tackle. What was your takes on all of them? We know my take.
We know your take. I can't say I disagree with any of those this week. Last week was different. I was a bit filthy on last week's ones, but yeah, these three I don't think you could argue against. I mean, then I dumped someone on their head. Junior Bowler left his feet and tried to decapitate a poor Panthers player. So
that's called a front rower tackle, Richie. Jumping clothesline. That's what you do. I think 2 weeks is all fine. It's with the guidelines that we've seen this year. So, I'm fine with it. It'll be okay. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to be better, guys. But I thought the Junior Polo one was entertaining.
It was. Thank goodness they're all right. Yeah.
But yeah, that means we'll jump into round 4 now, Richie. So first game was Thursday night with the Eels beating the Panthers 17-16. If you want to give us the score rundown.
Absolutely. They continue the trend outside of finals footy. They have something against the Panthers. But it was 2 tries apiece. Bryce Cartwright and Brendan Hands on debut, getting his first try. And 2 for the Panthers as well, Dylan Edwards and Zach Hosking, who I thought was very good. So that was the tries. Obviously, we had the 2-point field goal right at the end from Nathan Cleary, which much talked about was outstanding. And then Mitch Moses celebrating his new contract with the game winner.
Yeah. Before I give you my points, I'm going to talk about in my Panther point. That was a great field goal. And how often do we hear a field goal that ties the game get talked about more than the field goal that wins the game?
Yeah.
Rightly so, in my opinion. But the Eels, talking about them, they played error-free football. They had a 95% completion rate. They grinded hard, which they've shown at times they can do. And I thought it was a well-deserved win. It is what they do now. We talked about it last week, how they have a habit of beating the Panthers in games that don't matter. So I don't know why I didn't pick them. It's Murphy's Law there. But what was your thoughts on the Eels?
Similar to you, Brad. I thought they had a clear game plan and they accurately executed it. And for me, the Eels show they still have what it takes. They just need to find that consistency. So that's where they've been lacking so far this year.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Panthers?
Yeah, I think they showed that even though the Eels competed at 95%, that they never go away, and they still nearly snatched it at the death, forcing Golden Point. You know, that was despite the Eels probably playing as well as the Eels could play. So still a pretty valiant effort from the Panthers.
Yeah, I kind of got similar. I just said the Panthers look to be returning back to form. Cleary with the most clutch field goal ever. Still adjusting, I think, from the players that have left, but they're getting there. It's that going thing. They probably haven't hit the ground running like we expect them to, but you know they're always going to be in the conversation. My player that stood out was the flat track bully himself, Mitch Moses. He had a lot of eyes on him with all the talk about the signings. And when push came to shove, he delivered for the Eels when they needed him to. And he was 100% on his kicks all night, which they needed to be in a tight tussle like this. So I gave him that. But who was your player?
Before I give you mine, I still don't know how you call him flat track bully when he's done it against the best team.
Right, Panthers are rubbish, man. It's flat track bully.
I thought the Eels front row was outstanding. Campbell Gillard and Bolo both running for well over 200 meters and laying the platform for the game plan. So I had to roll the dice between those two, but I penalised Bolo for a sin bin, so Campbell Gillard. Yeah.
And I see Robbie commented on my mullet. It's not a mullet. It's just the way the headset works. If I take it off, it's just, it's everywhere.
Beautiful. Shampoo had that.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's like an Alice band is his headphones.
Yeah, it's basically my headband. Yeah, and Craig said Cleary always plays like time is on his side. Yeah, so I don't know if Paul even saw it. There was like a penalty with like a minute to go. Cleary kicked it out, and then they passed it back to him, and he just 1-2 banged it, and it was away. It was crazy. And Robert says I look like the drummer from Blind Melon. I don't know who they are. So
I can see it. I can see it.
Richie obviously knows because he's giggling like a schoolgirl, but I don't know if it's a compliment or not. Knowing you, it's probably not. But next game, Storm 24 over the Tigers 12. What was our score rundown?
So it's 4-2 for the Storm. Will Warbrick grabbing his first NRL try. Nick Meaney, Justin Olam, and Cam Munster on return. And for the Tigers, Asu Kapoa and Api Coruscant getting a try. So, what was your take on the game, Brad?
Yeah, I thought the Storm started strong, but they started to fall away a bit in the second half, which was a bit concerning because it's not the Storm side we're used to. They're still dangerous, but I think it's a bit of that experience, a bit like what I was just saying with the Panthers, that they kind of are drifting in and out of games at the moment, which is not Storm-like. But yeah, they still did what they needed to do. What did you think?
Yeah, I still don't think they look like the Storm of old. Granted, they're still missing Jerome Hughes and Pappenhausen, so they're still missing a chunk. They're still missing a chunk of their spine. But Cam Munster makes the world of difference to them, and they had more than enough to put away the lowly Tigers.
Yeah, and what did you think of the Tigers?
They still look a long way off, in my opinion, even with Appy and IPAP. They look like they're confused about how to use their roster, particularly in the spine, with Dewey back at fullback again, a bit of chopping and changing. A lot of talk about Luke Brooks as well, and a lot of people thinking he should get moved on, and for the Tigers and for him moving on, and it's probably, I don't know, mate. They look a long way off, so I hope they can improve and get better, but
yeah, I've got kind of similar. I thought the Tigers did look better from what we've seen in the first 3 rounds, but they're a long way off NRL standard. Their error rate is poor, and the attacking style is a mess. They don't really know what they're meant to be doing. So yeah, a long road ahead for them, as has been the case for, it feels like, forever now. My player was Cam Munster. Thought he looked good in his first game back. He's still not 100%, but he's kind of one of those level heads that they need. I think when they started to drop off in the second half, if he wasn't out there, it may have been a lot more dire than it was. But commenting about your mention about Luke Brooks, I'm sure there's a talented player in there somewhere, but I think he does need to move on. I think it's a move for both him and the club. I think they'll both benefit from it. But yeah, who was your player?
So I picked out Ali Couture, and he made a couple mistakes, but probably just that he's an ex-Warrior. I keep an extra close eye on him, and now he's gone to the Storm. He's become all of a sudden a big minute player, and coming up with those game-breaking plays like we knew he had in him. Breaking the line, making line breaks, setting up tries. So I think he'll only get better there.
Yeah, I think he's doing fantastic there. He's still got a lot to work on, but he's in the perfect place to do that. So, hopefully he goes well. I was always a big fan of him when he was with the Warriors, and will always be a fan of him. So, and Ruse said Brooks has to go. Definition of madness, persisting with a bloke for over a decade. Yeah, I just don't think it's helping either side.
Said it perfectly.
But yeah, next game, the last game on Friday, the most talked about game of the week, the Broncos defeating the Dolphins 18-12. Your rundown, Richie.
Battle of Brisbane. So it was 18-12 to the Broncos. 4-2. Jesse Arthurs, Selwyn Cobbo, Kurt Capewell, and Tony Staggs for the Broncos. Jared Wallace and the Hammer again keeps doing it. They were the 2 try scorers for the Dolphins. So what was your view on the Battle of Brisbane, the first ever Battle of Brisbane, Brad?
Yeah, I thought it was a tough challenge for the Broncos. It was an amazing crowd. If you saw it, it was yeah, I haven't seen a crowd like that for a long time. And for a regular round, I should say, in the NRL. Broncos, though, they were tough up the middle. They let their backs ask plenty of questions. It looked like they were on the ropes towards the end, though. It was still neck and neck. And then Staggs got them home with his amazing play. Yeah, good effort from the Broncos. They look legitimate at the moment. What's your take on them?
They looked legitimate for a lot of last year too, until the wheels fell off. So
yeah,
I'll reserve judgment. But I think they made a fair amount of errors this game. The Broncos, enough to keep the Dolphins interested for pretty much that whole game. But the Broncos were able to find enough magic at key moments to edge the result.
That kind of happens when you've got a team full of like 5 of the top 10 error makers of last year. So it does happen. But your take on the Dolphins?
I thought they showed a lot of heart. They were already without Isaiah Katoa, Jeremy Marshall-King, Felice Kafusi, and then losing Cody Nikarima, Sean O'Sullivan during the game, and TCU playing on one leg as well. So they were walking wounded for sure. So I think to be within touching distance of a win right at the end, I think they can take plenty out of their showing.
Yeah. And my thoughts on the Dolphins, it was obviously their first loss. They lost some direction when O'Sullivan went off, but they were still in the fight, even without their half. But the depth test starts now. My player that stood out, I think I picked him last week too, but Payne Haas. Got to show the props some love. But he was outstanding again. He's one of the best, if not the best, front rower in the game. And the Broncos always look like they've got an extra leg when he's out there. But who did you pick?
Yeah, I picked. Feel dirty for doing this. Reece Walsh. He's still doing some things that during the game you think, oh, that's a bit silly, but he more than makes up for it with his bursts of magic, and he really has changed how they attack. And he threw a try assist peach of a ball that sort of reminded me of when he threw playing for us. I think it might have been against the Tigers. He's just got that in him, and his acceleration out, coming off a shape. He's causing so many problems. Sorry, Bjorn. Yeah. I know. I want to punch myself for saying
it. So auditions for a new co-host will start after this episode.
And Jacko rightly brings up he almost cost them the game with the late error. That's what I mean, Jacko. He's still got dumb things.
He's still got it in.
He does, but he makes them that much more dangerous. I was actually writing that play when he knocked that ball, and I was hoping the Dolphins scored, and we'd be having a different conversation tonight.
I was going for the Dolphins in this game, so I didn't even pick them. I picked the Broncos, but I wanted to see the Dolphins win. But yeah, great game, and hopefully it's the start of a proper rivalry. I know it's just a fan-made built one due to the locations, but if they can deliver like this every time they face each other, it's going to be great for not just us, but for the NRL. So next game, first game on Saturday, Cowboys defeating the Titans 24-12. I'll let you do the rundown again because there's some hard names in there.
Yeah, so that's the second Queensland Derby of the weekend. 4-2 for the Cowboys. Jeremiah Nanai, James Tamo, Valentine Holmes, Tom Chester. Very surprised to see James Tamo pick one up there, but good for him. Front row's club.
Nice try.
And it was a nice try. And 2 tries to Khan Pereira, so the young man keeps scoring. That was the try scoring. You enjoy this one, Brad?
Yeah, I did. It was a tighter game than I thought it was going to be. It was a slow start for the Cowboys, but they are starting to show flashes of what brought them success last season. The return of some key players in the next few weeks should see them start to climb the ladder, I think. But yeah, I think a well-deserved win for them. What did you think about the Cows?
Yeah, more like it from them. Slow out of the blocks, but the fact that they were able to score 3 consecutive tries just before and just after halftime, that was enough to take charge of the game, and ultimately was the winning of it.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the Titans?
I think they put in a decent effort. I mean, much like the previous game, talking about the Dolphins, considering they lost key players, Foreign, AJ Brimson, to injury during the game, I think they showed good fight to stay competitive throughout.
Yeah. You're much nicer than I am. I've just got here, the Titans defense still needs work, but they also struggle at times to find their way through the Cowboys defense. Going to be a long season, I think, for Titans fans. My player that stood out was Valentine Holmes. I've always been a fan of him, though. But he was kicking well. He was dangerous with the ball in hand. And I thought he defended his edge reasonably well as well. So that's he ticked all the boxes he needs to do for a game. Who was your player?
So I've actually picked somebody up from the losing team this week, David Fafita.
What are you doing to me? You pick Walsh, pick Fafita?
Well, we've hung a lot of crap on Fafita the past couple of seasons, and probably rightfully so. But he looks a bit different this year. There's something different to him. He's a lot more involved, touching the ball a lot more, a lot of run meters, like as we know he can do. 2 try assists as well. So I've got to give credit where credit's due, really.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last game on Saturday, the other big game everyone was talking about, the Rabbitohs defeating the Sea Eagles 13-12. You want to give your rundown?
Yep. Was 2 tries apiece. For the Rabbitohs, Cody Walker grabbed a double. For Manly, Haumole Olokuatu and Daly Cherry Evans grabbing the 2 tries. And it was the boot of Lachlan Ilias in Golden Point, getting the 1 pointer to seal the match. Yeah.
So I've got for my Rabbitohs, it was a tight tussle. The Rabbitohs got home on the back of a massive effort from Cody Walker and Lachlan as well. They still need to improve the errors, though. I'm going to keep going on about it until I see it in single digits. They made 11 errors in this game, which 11 errors against Manly, you would say that that's a good chance you're going to walk away as the losers. So congrats on them, grinding it out. But what's your take?
Yeah, I think it was a much-needed morale-boosting win for Souths, particularly in an arm wrestle like that. In a game where I actually saw them losing, I think we both tipped Manly, didn't we?
We did.
Might have been all 3 of us, I'm not sure. But, yeah, and I thought much better.
Simon got it right.
He's too good, isn't always. He? He's on fire this year. But, yeah, much better output from Cody Walker this week. I thought him and Latrell probably haven't been quite at their best to start the year, but it's, better showing from Cody this week.
Yeah, and your take on Manly?
Yeah, unfortunate for Manly coming up just short. It's hard to go past a try that they had overturned for a forward pass call. Very controversial call. I've watched it probably 50 plus times. I cannot see anything close to a forward pass. I mean, it's just one of those games. It was a grind, it was an arm wrestle, and one team has to win. And unfortunately, calls like that get highlighted when it's that close.
Yeah, to see Paul's asking for a Warriors jersey. I don't get paid enough on this show to afford to buy a jersey for myself, Paul, let alone for someone else.
Surely you've got an Angus League wrap up bit of merch for him.
I've got 2 shirts and they're both mine. I don't even wear that. I'm wearing a Ruin Hammer shirt. So,
he pimped himself out for other podcasts. He even advertises on the screen.
That's my favorite player of all time, Paul. How could I not wear it? I even wear this to the games now. My thoughts on Manly. I thought they were making inroads with the ball in hand, but they lacked polish to put the game away. Tommy Turbo looked dangerous, but he's still not 100%. He's still coming back from that injury, and you can kind of see it. But, I'm always on the Sea Eagles bandwagon. So, they'll get there and they'll click. And when they click, it will most likely be against us, Richie. So,
hopefully not.
Yeah. My player stood out was Cody Walker. He scored the double for the Rabbitohs, and he's a fantastic player when he doesn't let his anger get the best of him.
Yeah.
If he sees the red mist, the Rabbitohs are in trouble because he just flies off the handle. Which you can't have one of your halves be that type of player. If he was in the forwards, that's completely fine. But
It's
yeah,
encouraged.
yeah, we saw the good in him in this game. But yeah, who was your player?
I probably would have said Cody Walker as well. I had a feeling you'd pick him, so I've gone for his halves partner instead, Lockie Elias, who came up with a clutch play to ice the game. Still a young man, so it's great to see him. I think that may be his first field goal.
Yeah, he said he
in
hasn't
NRL.
even practiced it a lot.
Yeah, so I think he started the year really well, and he's probably been the better half for the Rabbitohs form-wise so far this year until this game. So, yeah, it's great to see the young man put away a game winner and, nice little feather in his cap.
Yeah, and first game on Sunday, and probably the game we always want to talk about every week. Warriors defeating the Bulldogs 16-14. Run down on the score there, Richie.
All right, so it was 3-2 for the Warriors, Viliami Valea, Marcelo Montoya, and SJ Sean Johnson. For the Bulldogs, Jacob Carrez and the Fox, Josh Hadokar. Yeah, very nervous I was, Brad. How did you hold up? You were at the game.
Yeah, nerve-wracking to say the least. But there was a lot to like from this performance. We talked before the show, after the game, in our conversation with Ruin Hammer during the week, that this was a game that the Warriors lost last year. They got, even though they got that try through Sean Johnson, they spent like the last 10 minutes. It felt like the whole last 10 minutes they were on their try line defending. And it's like that's when they just let one slip. But this team doesn't do that. The defense they've got is legit. And it could prove the difference in many future games as long as they keep it up. This week, we'll talk about in the preview, this week is a true test of how good that defense is going to be. But yeah, fantastic game. Loved it. What was your take on it?
I'm just really impressed that we're finding ways to win. In recent years, in an arm wrestle like that, losing our captain during the game, having
losing
funny
half.
And having funny calls go against us, we 100% would have dropped our heads and probably conceded a bunch of tries and lost resoundingly. So,
yeah,
I love the fact that we keep finding ways to finish on the right side of these tight games, and if we can do that more often than not, we could finally be looking at contesting for the top 8 again.
Yeah, and Jacko makes a good point. He said Dogs taking the penalty for 2 points instead of going for the kill when on top cost them the game. Yeah, it was an interesting decision for them to, they had just scored a try, got a penalty. They should have gone for the try again. They lost a bit of killer instinct, which kind of goes into my comment on it. So I'll start with my Bulldogs comment, Richie. They looked like they were set to send all the fans at Mount Smart home unhappy. But once they lost that lead, it looked like they started to panic. Being live, watching their, they started to panic, and their stars, their Burtons, all those Marnie, all that, they all started to do their own thing. It kind of gave me the vibe of the Warriors last year, where they were meant to have a game plan, but yeah, guys like Reece Walsh that were on their own game plan and trying to do everything on their own, and it didn't work. That's what I saw from the Bulldogs here. If they start to get back on the same page and work together, they're a good side. They just need a bit of time to gel. And like Jacko says, Burton was disappointing for the Dogs. He was putting up his monster bombs, and the Warriors back three were just eating them. So, yeah, not a great day for him. But what was your take on the Dogs?
Yeah, I mean, they had their moments, and they'd look to be playing with a similar defensive steel that we're playing with, hence the arm wrestle and the grind. So I still think they look to be a team on the up, similar to us. I agree with Jacko's take on Burton and you. He was putting up heaps of bombs. Not a lot of the spiral bombs, though, more the end over end, which was a little bit easier for our back three. So, hey, I'm not complaining, but probably, I know we're just trying to make 1 point each, but I got to ask you on the controversial calls, the SJ obstruction try and the Kikau strip?
Yeah, the strip I think should have been a try, just due to the fact that Johnson earlier in the game got done for the strip, and his strip, if they called what he did a strip, what Kikau did should have been classed as a strip too, just a like for like. The try, I said it in our chat and in other chats I'm in after the game. Adam Fanua-Black was a support player running for the ball. He didn't deviate from his line. So it was play on for me. That's what the NRL have said. It's what even Gus Gould has come out and said. He kind of said it in a backhanded way where he said, like, it is a try, but it shouldn't have been given as one because that's not how it's been done before. But yeah, I'm just happy. I feel like 9 times out of 10 that Warriors get that try taken away. But I think due to the fact that they had one taken away earlier, the bunker was a bit more lenient. But yeah, the NRL officials came out and said it was the correct call. So I'm happy with it. If it was the Bulldogs scoring in that way to win the game against the Warriors, I probably got a different opinion. So I understand the Bulldogs' frustrations, or the Bulldogs fans' frustrations at least. But yeah, and saw a comment from Bourne there about the Warriors seem to play for each other at the moment. Yeah, it's a huge mentality change, which is really good to see. But I see in this game we've both got the same player that stood out, Richie. So I'm going to spoil it for you. I picked Shaun Johnson, as did you. Thought it was a fantastic game for him there. He got that match winner. He was kicking smart towards the end, like kicking deep into the corners. Defensively, he was outstanding. I think he made 20 tackles with no misses, but the one that came out for me was the Warriors. I can't remember what happened. The Warriors had kicked it, and the first defender didn't pick up Perham, and he was kind of coming towards my side of the field, and Shaun Johnson rushed out and tried to stop him at the try line. That's not something we see from him normally. He might have just waited and let a second rower go and make that extra effort. He just looks happy, and when he's playing happy, he plays well. But what did you think of SJ?
Yeah, I knew you were picking Shaun, and I couldn't not pick him. A lot of the same reasons that you mentioned. Defensively, he's been so sound. I don't know what work he's done in the offseason there, or it's just an attitude thing. But he's turning up defensively and not missing tackles, and he had Kikau running at him all day. He just looks a different man. He's not just shoveling the ball on; he's actually engaging the line before he's doing his playmaking, and like you say as well, smart kicking. He looks like the Shaun Johnson we've all been wanting to see. So it's long may it continue.
Yeah, I think that just comes down to what we said a bit earlier about the teams playing for each other, and he's got more players there. It's not the old school Shaun's got to do it all on his own type mentality that the Warriors have done in the past. Even though in this game he did win the game with a try, it wasn't necessarily up to him to do it. He just saw an opportunity and went for it. So long may it continue. I prefer praising Shaun than having to dump on him when he's not having a good game. So I'm happy to see more good than bad out of him in this. And yeah, Jacko said Kikau was into Shaun early on, but Shaun and Nakore won the war. Yeah, and Shaun's going to have to expect that every week. You want your big boys running at the halves on those edges. So but he does have Murata there with him to help him out, which is great to see. So next game on Sunday, Richie.
Actually, one thing to say about that game is having flipped over to that from watching the rugby union is the crowd and the atmosphere was fantastic at that game, and it's great to see the Warriors fans turning out in force and making a lot of noise.
Thank you for reminding me, Paul, because I was meant to bring that up in our news section. I'll see if I can find it again. I think I sent it to you, Richie. I'm just going. Yeah, here we go. So there was an article during the week about crowds and attendance, and it was more about rugby union. So bear with me. But they said the Blues, they rested their All Blacks in a game they won against the Force, but that was completely overshadowed down the road at Mount Smart by Warriors sides picking up their third win out of 4 in front of a crowd of 19,000 fans. That was the largest crowd at a sporting event in New Zealand over the weekend. So in that weekend, we had rugby league, we had an international one-day cricket game, and we had the All Whites as well, I believe. And the Warriors had the most fans at a game, which is great. It shows that people think the thing is, Warriors fans, we've got to keep going. We can't just, go this week and then if the Warriors lose another game or so, everyone disappears. But yeah, it was great. And I think your question's kind of related to the crowd and everything, so I'll stop there. But next game on Sunday, Raiders losing to the Knights 24-14. The rundown, Richie.
Yep. Apologies, Simon. 24-14 Knights. 5 tries to 2. Greg Marju with a double. Bradman Best, Dane Gagai, and Tyson Frizzell with the try scorers for the Knights. For the Raiders, Hudson Young and Jackie Whiten, who also had a sin bin. Unexpected one for me, Brad. I'd tip the Raiders. What was your take?
I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, we all picked the Raiders. So this was finally one that Simon got wrong. The Knights' attack is starting to take shape, and they're asking more questions of the defense. I still feel, I think I said it last year, but I still feel they play better without Ponga, which is why I was saying don't re-sign them, use that money elsewhere. And Simon said Brisbane had massive numbers, 50,000 at the rugby league, 30,000 at AFL, and it was on the same night. They love going out the footy more than us Aucklanders do. I think Greg Marju and Lachlan Miller have been great buys for the Knights. Still can't believe that the Titans let Greg go. And the Sharks, I guess the Sharks have got some all right players, so I can understand them letting Lockie go. Great performance from the Knights. Will this develop into more wins? I'm not sure. But what's your take on the Knights?
They were much, much better from where they have been. I think their back 5 were all really impressive, and that's with Dom Young being dropped. So unlucky for Dom Young. I don't know if he'll stay dropped now, but yeah, the back 5, Marju, Lockie Miller, Bradman Best, their whole back 5 were really good, and it really set them up for the win. I just think they need to do it more consistently.
Yeah, I'm just looking, and Dom Young's been added to the extended bench, but not into the starting lineup. So he may come in, but probably not. For the Raiders, a rough night for the Raiders. They defended poorly and just seemed out of sync. Is probably the easiest way I could break it down or simplify it. I don't know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel for them. I'm not really sure what they can do to make it better. They've always got a fighter's chance, though. Depending on the day, the Raiders might come out great, but not this week. What was your take?
Yeah, I think a definite step back after a good grindy win last week. In a game I tipped them to win, it just went south for them. Right after halftime, the Knights went bang, 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 all within the first 10 minutes after halftime, put 3 tries on. We had Jack Whiten getting sin-binned in that little period too. So, yeah, not the best from the Raiders, unfortunately.
No, and my player to stick out was Lachlan Miller. Talked about him already, but he's just gone from strength to strength for the Knights. Even in defeat, he's looked really good. He's definitely well-deserving of a first-grade spot. So great that he made the move to the Knights where that would actually happen. Who was your player?
So I actually put Greg Marju. And we saw in periods with the Titans, he could produce this kind of form, had his issues defensively, but a beast on attack can get over the line, and that's what he provided here on the weekend, and definitely helped the Knights over the line.
Yeah, definitely. And then last game of the round, probably my most...
Your second favorite?
No, my favorite. I think I put this above the Warriors game. The Sharks defeating the Dragons 40-8. Your rundown on the score.
Yeah, you said it, 40-8. 7 tries to 2 for the Sharks. Will Kennedy, Jesse Ramey, and Renato Mulatalo. Braden Nakora, Renato Mulatalo again, Jesse Ramey again, and Sione Katoa. 2 tries for the Dragons, Ben Hunt and Jaden Sewer. So, yeah, super dominant, Brad.
Yeah,
you would have loved it, I'm sure.
I did. The Sharks, talking about the Sharks first, they were on fire in this game. The return of Hines has them kind of right back to the 2023 form. Very dangerous side that does have me worried this week. Your take on the Sharks?
Yeah, the reigning Dally M medal winner put on a show. It's clear to see they're much more threatening side with him playing. And I think it was a ruthless showing, particularly in the second half, to hammer home their dominance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tries in the second half. So, yeah, pretty handy.
Yeah, and your take on the Dragons?
Yeah, the opposite side of that coin. Not a great showing from them. On evidence of that display, hey, maybe your preseason prediction for the Dragons could become a reality, Brad. You would love that.
Just need a few miracles from the Tigers, and I think it's going to be a possibility. The Dragons, they're just a mess. There's no other way to really describe them. We saw it last week against the Broncos. When they drop their heads, it just opens the floodgates. And we kind of saw that here. They just, there was, Raymond, it was like 31st minute, 43rd, 50, 57, 59, like bang, 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 bang. I just don't think there's a fix for them this season. Their season's done already. They need to get rid of the coach, clean up a lot of things. I don't know what they can do. I love it, but it'd be hard being a Dragons fan right now. And Jagger said they're in a hole. They're fighting the Tigers for the spoon. It could very much come down to who wins the games between the Dragons and Tigers on who gets the spoon. To be honest, I was saying it last year though, and the Dragons, showed some spirit. Maybe that will come back at some point. I just don't see it. Griffin's already basically been told he's not coached next year. Are the players going to bother showing up for him? I don't know. Love it. My player, I think you picked him too. My player that stood out in this game was Nico Hines. We've kind of been saying it all year already that, once Nico's back with the Sharks are dangerous. We saw that. He needed no time to kind of ease in. He was straight in there doing what he did last year. And, just a fantastic player. And probably the reason why I picked him for back-to-back Dally M's. What did you think on Nico? I spoiled it again. You picked Nico, right?
Had to, mate. Sorry. Yeah. He's the Dally M for a reason. It showed, bunch of try assists, bunch of line break assists, 5 out of 7 off the boot. I know New South Wales have been picking on combinations, and it's been hard to argue the past couple of years, but I'd be seriously considering putting him in the halves with Cleary.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. I don't think I've seen enough from Luai. That was a prediction. Cheap plug for Ruin Hammer again. Sorry, Paul. On our prediction show we did with them, I predicted that Jerome Luai wouldn't be in the halves for New South Wales because I thought Nico will take it. And from what I've seen from Jerome this year and what we've seen in one game, I know it's only one game, but he's well ahead of him. I think we'll see that this year. But that was round 4. So I don't remember which picture we got first, Paul, either the ladder or the tips. You picked tips. So we all got 5 out of 8 this week. So we're getting better, Richie.
We are.
So we all got the Panthers wrong. Simon got the Dolphins wrong. We got Manly wrong. And then we all got the Raiders wrong. So that was our 3. But it means Simon's still at the top, 20 out of 32. I'm second with 16 out of 32, and you're just one behind me, 15 out of 32.
I'm coming.
So you actually got to pick different to me this week, maybe, Richie. And it might see you jump.
Richie just needs to try and get above 50. Try and get to above 50% right.
50%.
Just flipping a coin, he'd be better than he has done so far.
Yeah,
Hey.
and then if you want to bring up the ladder, I see Simon's giving me the picks. So when you want to run down the ladder, Richie, while I write down the picks.
You bet. Let's start. I'll start by saying the top 4 to shine the light on us there. Brisbane, Manly, Dolphins, Warriors sitting pretty in the top 4. 5 through 8, Sydney Roosters, Cronulla Sharks, Penrith Panthers, South Sydney Rabbitohs, and the rest, Melbourne Storm, Canterbury Bulldogs, Gold Coast Titans, Newcastle Knights, North Queensland Cowboys, the Dragons, not quite in wooden spoon yet, number 14. Parramatta get off the mark this week. Canberra Raiders and West Tigers still yet to get off the mark.
Yeah, so the Dragons have got those 4 points. Obviously, they had a bye, though, which helped. So they still only got the 1 win. But it's still an interesting ladder. You know, some of those teams are slowly getting into the 8 that we kind of expected to be there. So you're seeing Rabbits, Sharks, Panthers getting their way back in there. But, I don't think anyone would have predicted at the end of round 4 that it would be Brisbane, Manly, Dolphins, and Warriors in the top 4. Some people may have said Manly. Potentially, but yeah. And Jacko saying Raiders 16th, love it. Yeah, I want the Dragons at the bottom, so I would have rather had the Dragons at 16th. So it was just like 1 win for the Tigers and we see the split. But yeah, hopefully we see the Warriors stay where they are for a little bit longer, Richie.
Definitely, hopefully.
All right, so question time. Were there any questions?
Yeah, we've got a few, but before we, I'm going to bring sort of my own one up. I'm just giving you a different view of the table, which gives us a bit more detail around it. Here, the Panthers sat there in 7th with 1 win and 2 losses. They're in the top 8, and they've lost more games than they've won. I mean, bit of a joke, isn't it, having that sort of situation.
They had the bye. They get 2 points for a bye. It's the same as, the Dragons were just outside the 8 after the first round with no wins and no losses because of the bye in the first round. But yeah,
it's been a very close start the season. A lot of teams dropping games, unless you're one of the elite clubs like us.
Oh, look, I mean, you're on the same number of points from 6th all the way down to 14th.
Yeah,
one win, and you one win, and you climb 8 places. If other results go your way, it's early days. It's all very tight. But I just thought the Panthers, having lost more games than they've won, being in 7th place,
we've had that
pass at this point of the year.
We've had that at the end of the season, Paul, where a team's made the 8 with more losses than wins, more losses than wins, and they've made the finals. I think it was like the Titans. Not last year, the year before. They made the 8, and I think they had 1 more loss than wins or something like that. But yeah, it's a long season. By the end of it, I think we'll see it divide eventually. But it makes it a great competition at the moment where it's so close.
Okay, so on that question then, where do you think the divide's going to be? Is it the top 4 and then a gap, the top 7 then a gap? How many teams do you think before that divide? How many sort of good teams and how many bad teams are there, kind of thing?
I think it's going to be more towards the between 8th and 10th. I think will be the divide. I think there's legitimately 2 teams that are rubbish and shouldn't be in the competition right now, and the Tigers and the Dragons. And I think everyone else has got a fighting chance. But I think you're going to see like 4 or 5 teams at the bottom that are just completely away from the rest. We'll see. It could be like last year where it's the top 4 and then there's a massive gap between everyone else. There you go, folks. The gap in between 8th and 10th, folks. So the NRL are going to nix the ninth place. And that should always be the Tigers. That's their spot. So, but yeah. So what questions do we have anyway, Paul?
So first up, we've got from Beyond. Do you reckon the Dolphins will lose Kafasi to Queensland for this year?
Potentially.
There's a definite chance for it the way he started the year. Yeah, and he's been there and done that for Queensland before, so every chance, I reckon.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance if he comes back from suspension in the same form he was at the start of the season, I don't see why he wouldn't make the team.
And we were talking about 2 spots left in the Warriors squad. And now you said, look, you don't want them to go out and sort of buy 2 people because they're free. But what positions do you think that they're going to need to strengthen at some point, or are they just holding on to those 2 spots, waiting to fill injury issues?
I don't know. Richie might have a better take. I before season started, I said they needed to get a center and a prop. I'd probably lean more towards a center still, because I've got a prejudice against Adam Pompey, but I feel like the prop rotation, as small as it is, seems to be working. We'll see after games against the Storm, the Roosters, the Sharks, if I still think that. But at the moment, I'm quite comfortable with the roster they've got.
Yeah, definitely before the season started, and that's the key. You said it too. I would have said prop, but our forward pack's been going really well, so maybe for depth. But also when you look at our New South Wales Cup, we've got a bunch of guys in the next tier down that look like they're not too far off that next level as well. So it's nice problems.
Yeah, Jacko mentioned a top meter reading forward would be nice. Yeah, but it's not just, it's like who's available. I don't see anyone out there that, like, if it was.
Oh yeah, but it's a matter of where do you see depth issues in the squad? But
I still think front row is still probably a thing. Like if Adam Fanua-Blake got injured, touch wood, there's an issue. You know, as much as the Warriors players have been stepping up when they've been given the shot. I don't know. It would probably be Bunty and Tom Ali, or Bunty and Mitch Barnett starting.
Mitch Barnett,
which doesn't lead me in as much confidence. Barnett's been fantastic, and I want Tom Ali to get more minutes, which would happen in that scenario. But yeah, I feel like that is the issue. If like an Adam Fanua-Blake went, we're going to see what happens if Tohu probably doesn't play this week. He's another guy that you'll miss, but there's some good players that can take his spot. So,
Fanua-Blake is our big meter eater, really. We've got guys who do a good job, like Mitch Barnett, but he's not going to make 150 plus meters a game like AFB would.
Yeah.
Finally, then, any news on Warriors jerseys?
No, they've been real quiet. I assume we'll see one. When's Indigenous round?
Not sure.
Oh, it's already been, isn't it?
No. Is it?
No, I think it did. I think it was second round. Because they were doing all the thing on where each player came from. Yeah, I think it's already happened. But the Warriors love doing special jerseys, so I'm sure we'll see one at some point. I just haven't heard anything yet. I think they're still trying to wait for people to adjust to the giant arc reactor on the jerseys at the moment. So, we'll see. But yeah, no news as yet, Robbie.
That's all our questions from the live chat there.
All right.
But Jacko does say we've got enough jerseys to sink the Queen Mary. I don't think Jacko wants to have any more jerseys.
They've got to change now because we've got a new logo, so we need all new jerseys. That's the way it is. Got to make some money. But
so how have Warriors fans been about being named after sort of a nationalistic kind of a strange name for a company? I thought one and is that big green circle? Does it fit okay with the jersey, or people unhappy think it's a bit of an eyesore?
To be honest, I thought it was an eyesore when it first was there, but I've really not noticed it this year. It kind of feels fine on the jersey. And yeah, Jack said his 95 jersey is just fine. Yeah, everyone's got their favorite. I still don't own my favorite, so I've never been able to get it. That's the 2002 jersey, the home one. I've got the greatest jersey of all time behind me, the Bushwhackers jersey, but Yeah, I think, and most Warriors fans never call them the Vodafone Warriors anyway. It's always just been the Warriors, so don't think it really matters that much. But
especially when you're winning.
Yeah, and like Simon said, he thinks the New Zealand logo suits the club's branding. Yeah, it kind of goes with it, and the green circle, as much as I thought it was an eyesore, kind of blends in with the jersey a bit better than the giant big red one anyway. So. Yeah, I don't care. I think it'd probably be a different opinion if the Warriors were losing every week. You kind of take these things on the side a bit easier when you're winning. So,
yep, cool.
Yeah, and your question for me, Richie?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about the game on the weekend. I know you were able to get along to the game and watch all 3 games of the triple header. So, how was the game day experience for you? First home game at Mount Smart this season. Was there anything new and exciting to enhance the game day experience, or was it just much of the same as previous years?
In terms of the game day experience, it was basically the same. It was great to go to all 3. I couldn't get anyone to go with me, Rich, so I was on my own, which gave me the luxury of going, early when no one wants to go. So I got there just before 12 and watched the SG Ball. And one thing, I haven't been that early in so long that I forgot that you can't buy beer that early. I couldn't get a beer to watch the SG Ball game. I had to wait until New South Wales Cup. And where we used to get our beer behind the goalposts, they didn't have an FBOS machine at the time. So I had to walk all the way out the top, first world problems. But it was great. The only thing I still miss is the members tent. I know they've got Lily World next door, which is where they're trying to get all the members to go. But I'm lazy. I don't want to walk from where I park to the gates and then walk around further. So I didn't actually go to Lily World. I saw a lot of the members that I know did, but I was like, I may as well just stay in. But it was great. I still don't like my seats. As you know, Richie, I complain about our crappy seats on the West Stand. I see, especially you see the East Stand, they've got all those brand new seats, all nice and flash. And because we're not camera facing, we still got the old ones from the 60s that just don't feel great. But yeah, it was a great experience though. It's always great being in front of in a packed crowd at Mount Smart, as you know, Richie. And hopefully it's only the start. Hopefully there's a lot more, big crowds for Mount Smart, because there's no other experience like it.
Nice.
My question for you, it's I thought I'd throw you a curveball because you like doing it to me from time to time. But with the news that we talked about at Joseph Suaalii signing with Union, Jordie Barrett spending time with the Storm, what Union player would you like to lure to the NRL if you had your pick?
Do you mind if I be a real big cop out here? Because I'm going to throw you more than one.
Okay, fine.
Jordie Barrett is one.
Yeah.
He's said he loves the game of league, and I think he would be really good at maybe number 6 in the similar sort of vein as Matt Burton. He's got a huge boot on him. Jacko's just said one I was going to say as well, Artie Savia. I think he would go fantastic, super aggressive, always a handful to tackle, and a great tackler himself. Caleb Clark said he's a fan of the game, and I think he'd make a really good, strong outside back. And I might as well pick one from abroad instead of being too Kiwi-centric. Somebody like Cheslin Colby from South Africa, I think, would make a real electric fullback, sort of similar to what you see with Reece Walsh.
Or Jason Robinson back in the day.
Yeah, Jason Robinson, another great example. Yeah, he's one that did the transition to back and forth, really, but he
flipped both ways.
Yeah, he was really good at both.
Yeah, all good picks. I want to, I've got one, Manu Tulangi. I want to throw a left field just because I know he's a massive fan. Dane Coles. Don't know where you'd put him. He's mobile enough, but he's a massive Warriors fan.
Yeah,
and he's enough of a grub as well.
Exactly.
A massive grub.
Exactly. I was never grubbier than playing Union Ball, so don't try to throw that shade. you get hurt if you try to be too grubby in league. Where Union, you can get away with it. But yeah, that would be mine. Just left field. I like him. And yeah, Jago said there's a little guy playing fullback for Italy. Which will go good.
He's fantastic. I forget his name. Paul would know because starts with a C.
I should know, but I don't.
Oh, honestly,
Oh.
Well, he had one job, Paul.
He's another one.
Bloody amateur.
Right. So yeah, great questions.
One more question from Simon there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Warriors potentially sharing Mount Smart with an Auckland soccer franchise in the A-League?
Look, we're going to start. Here's a 20-minute run. You know, those
We don't have
idiots.
that kind of time.
Those idiots spend all that money on Eden Park, and no bugger wants to bloody play in it anymore. They want to come to my stadium and play. You know, All Blacks come into my stadium. You know, we've got Pacifica playing there as well. Now we've got soccer. We're going to have netball ending up there at some point too, I'm sure. Leave my stadium alone. No one wanted it before. The Warriors were the only ones, and now everyone wants it. So get out. Go to Eden Park, where all you bloody people like going.
Jeez, I'd have been like, yeah, bring them along. More investment, better. We'll get the stadium improved. It'll be great. But no, wow, I'm surprised.
No, it's my stadium. Leave it alone.
Capuzzo, that's his name. Going back. There you go. Just Googled it.
All right. Are you going to answer the question now, though?
No.
You don't care about the soccer?
As long as it doesn't interrupt the Warriors games, I don't really care.
Yeah, and like Simon said, it's mainly in the summer months, so there might be a bit of overlap, but yeah, it's Jacko's kind of said it. Yeah, then, it wasn't that long ago they were like, yeah, let's burn Mount Smart to the ground and move the Warriors elsewhere because no one wants to use the stadium. And everyone wants to use it. But it's, I don't know. I don't know. It's great. It's money making, but it's not like the money's going to Mount Smart or to the Warriors anyway. And when the Warriors have wanted to do stuff to Mount Smart, the owners have said, well, you guys can pay for it. So now all these other sports are benefiting off the Warriors' money. So, if the soccer or if the A-League or Super Rugby start putting some money in to help make the stadium a bit better, I'm all for them sharing it. But until then, they can bugger off. Okay. I'll stop the rant now. We'll go into round 5, Richie. So we'll talk about the Warriors game first. They're playing on the 2nd of April. And your boss said, so is that a no, Brad? Yes, it's a no. Sorry.
I think it's more of a maybe.
Bit of leeway. Warriors Sharks at PointsBet Stadium. I'll let you run off the Warriors squad before I talk about the Sharks one.
Yep. So Chance Nickel-Clock's number 1, Ed Cossey, Marcelo Montoya on the wings, Viliami Valea, Adam Pompey centers, Sean Johnson and Ronnie Volkman coming in for his first grade game of the year for Tamati Martin. Front row is Adam Fanua-Blake, Bunty R4, and Wade Egan returns. Back row is Jackson Ford, Marata Niokore, and Tohu Harris has been named, but we shall see.
Yep.
Interchange, Dylan Walker, Bailey Siren, and Jazz Tavanga, and Tom Ale.
Yeah, and then for the Sharks, we've got Will Kennedy at fullback, Sione Katoa and Ronaldo Mulatalo on the wings, Jesse Ramian and Siosefa Talakai in the centres. Halves is Matt Moylan and Nico Hines. Front row, we've got Toby Rudolph, Blake Brayley, Braden Humley, Ueli. Second row, Brighton Midnikora, Teague Wilton, and then Dale Finucane, captain at lock, with Cameron McInnes, Royce Hunt, Jack Williams, and Braden Trindle on the bench. So how do you see this game going, Richie?
Tough game. Especially if the Sharks are going to carry anything like the form they produced last weekend just gone, then very tough for us. I think the opposition they were up against is a little weaker than what we are. So I have a feeling you're going to pick Sharks, so I'm going to tip the Warriors for an ambush.
Oh, Oh, okay. So I'm writing you down. Yeah, I've gone with the Sharks here. I think it's going to be very tight, though. They are, like Jacko said, they're a quality, genuine top four side. They're scary. We saw what happens when they're on last week. Admittedly, they were playing the Dragons. But yeah, they're a dangerous team, and we saw what they did to the Warriors last year. This is a different Warriors team, but you know they wiped the floor with us. They even beat us with 11 players. So they are a dangerous team. I'm expecting it to be close. Kind of a bit like the Roosters game where the Warriors did lose, but I took more positives than negatives out of it. That's what I want to see. I don't see the Warriors getting the win, but I hope you're right, and I hope you beat me in that tip because I'd love to see it. And yeah, with Tohu probably not going to play, who would you bring in to lock? Would you bring in Jazz? Would you bring Curran? What would you do?
I think I would be. You know what? I think I'd bring in Curran as a starter. I think the Ball brothers off the bench as a duo have been really effective. I would want to keep that consistent, and I just bring Josh Curran as a straight swap.
Yeah, that was my thought too. I think in my review this week, I said I would either be using Mitch Barnett or Curran at lock. Barnett hasn't been named at all, so he's off the table. So I'd go with Curran. But yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be a great game. It's not a bad time, 6:00 for us. Sit at home, and watch. So I'm looking forward to it, which I can honestly say I didn't think that last year. But we may as well go into the rest of the round, Richie. So Simon's already given me his picks. You got something to say, Paul? No, you just jumped in and jumped out.
I was just going to do Simon's picks for him. I was going to be Simon.
You can be him if you want. So first game, we got Roosters and Eels. I've gone with Roosters. I still don't trust the Eels. Who'd you go with, Richie?
Yeah, Roosters as well. The Eels had their big game last week.
And Simon, who did you go for?
He's going Roosters all day long. He loves the hairdo.
Well, good. Next game, we have Raiders-Panthers. I've gone with the Panthers, Richie. I think we saw enough from them. Raiders, I haven't seen enough to have any confidence in them, so I've gone with Panthers.
Yeah, me too. Agree.
You're going against my boys. Sorry, but Raiders, Panthers. A losing team in the top 7? Nah, good. No chance.
And then final game on Friday is Rabbitohs Storm. I've gone with the Rabbits. I think the Storm has still got the wobbles, and I feel like the Storm aren't going to hit their stride until Anzac Day. So I'm going with Rabbits.
They're going to hit their stride on Anzac Day, you reckon?
Yeah.
No, I've gone Rabbitohs as well.
Your boys are getting it all wrong. Look, who's the leader of the comp? And look, if you're wearing purple, you look bigger, and they're going to win it. It's the Storm all the way.
Yeah. And then the first game on Saturday, Seagulls Knights. I've gone with Manly. Kind of Knights are getting tired with the same brush I gave the Raiders.
Yeah. Well said. Manly, easy.
Yeah, you got this one right, boys. Yeah, Manly, top 4 team. You got it. They're in form. They're looking good. Yeah,
and next game on Saturday, we've got Dragons Dolphins. I've picked the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins could have everybody gone and they'll still beat the Dragons. So, easy win.
Dragons.
You're going Dragons? We are no longer friends.
Is that all it took?
After all these years, the thing all you needed to do. Look, even with those injuries, you got to back the Dolphins. Sorry, but the Dragons struggling.
Yeah. Then last game on Saturday, Broncos Tigers. Kind of a no-brainer here. The one team that hasn't lost and the one team that hasn't won. So I'm going with Broncos.
Is it a no-brainer?
It's a no-brainer.
Have you looked at the recent record between the two teams?
I don't care.
Yeah, no, I went Broncos as well.
Yep, Broncos, and probably by the biggest win of the weekend.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then first game on Sunday, Sharks Warriors. We already said, Sharks for me, Warriors for Richie. Paul, Simon.
There's blood in the water. The Sharks are coming for him.
Yeah. And then last game, Bulldogs Cowboys. Probably the toughest one I had to pick this week. I've gone with the Cowboys though. Bulldogs, I thought looked good in patches, but I think the Cowboys with Peter Hiku back, they'll be looking at making a statement.
Scott Drinkwater's still not back, I don't think. And they've lost Murray Taulagi as well, so their back three's a bit compromised. Bulldogs at home.
Ooh. Oh dear, no, we'll be branding those dogs this weekend. So the Lassos are out and the Cowboys are going to win this one. But it should be a tight game. Tight one.
You've made it great, Simon.
Yeah, thank you. It's finally great to have a voice for Simon. So yeah, a few different picks there. So we'll probably see Simon blow us away again, as is the case. But now this is time for Jacko to leave. See you, Jacko. Great having you here. We're going to talk about Super League quickly. So round 6, we had some wins and some losses, as you would expect from a round, Richie. St. Helens defeated Uddersfield 14-12. Hull KR defeated Wakefield 34-6. Wigan defeated Salford 20-16. Warrington defeated Castleford 38-0. Leeds defeated Catalans 32-22, and then Lee defeated Hull FC 24-16. I forgot to grab the ladder. I ran out a bit of time, sorry. I think there's been a little bit of a change. And then we've got round 7. There's a few interesting games. Lee versus Wigan, St. Helens versus Wakefield, Hull KR versus Leeds, Warrington versus Hull FC, Catalans versus Castleford, and Salford versus Uddersfield. Any thoughts on the Super League, either the results or the games coming up, Richie?
Yeah, St. Helens look like they're getting back into winning ways. Wigan getting the win, so great for us. And I think hopefully our boys get up over the shocking uniform wearers this weekend, and should be a good one.
Yeah, and Simon said the Catalan Leeds game was very close until the last few minutes, and we got the table there. So Warrington still the only undefeated team. They're 6-0 now. Catalans second, and Wigan's third. And where is St. Helens is 6th?
Yeah,
with a 3-2 record. Played one less game, and they're above Leeds with 3 from 3. So interesting times. Warrington are kind of getting into that groove again that we saw a little while ago. But as long as Wigan stay in the hunt, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to add before we go, Richie?
Yep. Just thanks to the chat. Thanks for your outstanding chat as always, and Paul for being the great producer and Simon impersonator.
Richie unfortunately didn't tell me that who's going to feel dirty this one. So I've got him a little gift now for when he's feeling so dirty.
That's quality.
Yeah. Okay. Well, an hour 37, not too bad. For our dream of an hour episode, Richie, it may happen one day.
Past my bedtime.
It's not this day. We got more. See, Simon's trying to make the show go longer. God bless you, Simon. So the only other Super League related news he has is that they're planning to vote on new criteria in a couple of weeks. Somerton Library Division Club for vote against. We need you to do more work on the news so we actually have some to talk about. I'll try that this weekend. I'll try to look for some more news to make the show go to like an hour 45, I reckon. We had the sweet spot.
We're actually a news show. Tuesday nights is our news show, and then Wednesday nights is our games show.
Yes. Simon said meant to say lower division clubs instead of Somerton Library clubs. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight and joining us on the Standoff with Brad and Richie. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. here on Facebook or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or on YouTube as well. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Thanks for joining me again, Richie. Thanks for doing all the hard work in the background, Paul. And good night, everybody.